It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Hi there, I'm Kyle Benedict. Welcome to Countywide. Today we're talking with the Prescott National Forest. Going to talk a lot about just stuff going on the Verde Ranger District. And here in studio joining us today is the District Ranger for the Verde Ranger District, Todd Willard. Thank you very much for being here.
Good morning. Thank you.
So a lot of stuff to cover, and we'll just get right into it. But first off, tell us about yourself, a little bit of background of Todd Willard.
Okay. Well, I went to school at New Mexico State, was raised in New Mexico. I went to school for several years and went to the oil field, had a break, went back to school and graduated in '89 and picked up a job with the Forest Service seasonally on the Tonto Forest in '89, and I spent most of my career there until 2015 as a wildlife and fisheries biologist by trade. Oh. And I worked in fire a lot and recreation. And I've had several details as a district ranger out of this region in Montana and other locations. But I arrived here on Prescott permanently in 2015, and I've been here since as a district ranger on the Verde District. Oh,
great. Well, again, thanks for coming in today. Mm-hmm. So a lot of trail planning work, it seems like, is going on here in the Verde Valley, especially in this area. Talk about the work that's going on and just where we're at with the Verde Trails and Access Plan. I know is one thing you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, we have a new program we've started recently on the district, and it's actually a program where we're engaging more volunteers to help us with our trail maintenance and construction. And so every Wednesday we're having folks that are interested in helping us meet us at the Verde Ranger Station at 8 in the morning, and we have our Prescott Forest Trails Coordinator, Tony Papa, who leads that effort. As a matter of fact, he had some folks out yesterday, and it kicked off yesterday. So we have 178 miles of existing trails on the district. 55 miles of that's motorized and 123 miles of that's non-motorized. So when I say motorized, I'm talking about single track or quad, not regular road system trails. Okay. But in planning, we have 118 miles proposed, primarily non-motorized routes to come. And so that's why we're looking at engaging volunteers and starting the planning for that now, and which involves the NEPA process, the National Environmental Protection Act, which has us do various amounts of analysis, get public comment, and look at different alternatives. And the public's engaged in that whole process. And so we consider those comments and look at what's feasible on the landscape, and then we make decisions and then move forward. And the public is so engaged in that, and it's vital we get their input. And so that's how we're moving forward. And so essentially, this 118 miles of proposed trails, that will carry us forward for many years, up to possibly 8 to 10 years. Oh, wow. Because it's a large planning effort and a lot of work involved there. So anyway, but it's important that everybody understands that we're looking for help, and if they want to coordinate with us and tie in, they can either contact the district office there at the Verde, or Tony Papa directly out of the Bradshaw Ranger District. Okay,
and you mentioned volunteers are a big part in the kind of construction of the trail system, right? Mm-hmm. So now, in order, I guess the reason for the new trails, was it public input? Did you hear from the public that they wanted more options within non-motorized trails?
Absolutely, yeah. We've had been engaged with the Verde Front group, which is essentially communities, partners, agencies, even local businesses, and we get a lot of feedback through that effort and through our forest planning process as well. There was a lot of feedback on that, and folks want more access to the forest system, and they want developed trails. And so we're responding to that, and this is one of the efforts to do so.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, as you mentioned, there's going to be the process, a lot of input from the public as this process continues to move forward. Moving on, changing gears a little bit, cleanup work over at West Mingus Avenue. Explain what's going on there and what folks might see here in the future, and I guess just what's going on. Why is cleanup in that area needed? Okay, and so I want to give a bit of background there. That area is it's off West Mingus Avenue, which is just about 1.2 miles southwest of the airport there in Cottonwood. It's within the town limits of Clarkdale. The area was termed the old dump because for years it was used as a dump, and then there was all kinds of activities there, recreational shooting, OHV use, cross-country travel, so it was a whole host of activities there. And so in September of '09, the forest embarked on a sustainable recreation planning process. So what it was, they were trying to determine what type of recreation could we sustain over the long term. And through that process, we came up with shared goals and objectives, and that effort resulted in the Verde Front group I just referred to. And again, that's all the communities in the Verde Valley are engaged in that. Communities, tribes, agencies, and it's a collaborative effort in the true sense of the word. So through that Verde Front process, we engaged the communities even further, and there was a call out to develop a trail system right there at that West Mingus area. So the forest embarked on the planning process, the NEPA process I referred to earlier, and you have a team of interdisciplinary team of specialists that evaluate different resource conditions and alternatives. And that's that planning process we use. Through that effort, there was concern about potential hazards associated with the dump, the historic dump, and shooting. So recreational shooting? Correct, yeah. Correct. So anyway, there were, with that, we had led to a limited Phase 2 environmental site assessment in 2014, and then following that was a preliminary site assessment inspection that was conducted in 2015. And so from the results of that study, there was a CERCLA action warranted. And CERCLA stands for the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act. So what it is, it's really to protect the health and safety of the public. Okay. That's the concern on that. So there's what was it from the recreational shooting that caused some of these concerns and these environmental concerns? Well, there's a buildup of lead and antimony in the soil, and so it's years of sustained use of that activity. Okay. And so with that, there are levels that are acceptable and those that aren't, and the lead exceeded the acceptable level by a factor of about 80 times. Oh, wow. And so arsenic was another call out on that, and then antimony. So there's concern, you know, about those substances being released through wind, erosion, surface runoff, and that. It's adjacent to blowout wash and then other drainages, and it's not that far from the Verde River. So there are larger impacts to be concerned with there. Right, okay. Well, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the specific work that's taking place over there as a result of those, I guess, the findings from those studies. So again, for more information, a good phone number for the Verde Ranger District of the Prescott National Forest, 928-567-4121. We're going to take a quick break, countywide, back in a couple minutes.
Plays all the hits. Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber.
You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
Hello, I'm Jen Cohen, host of Verde Valley TV's hit TV show, The Verde Valley Experience. On each episode, we feature local organizations, nonprofits, persons of interest, events, activities, and great local musicians. It's informative, it's entertaining, it's fun. It's the Verde Valley experience.
Time is the one thing that we want more of as a St. Jude parent. Without the donors, I wouldn't have my Audrey.
El que St. Jude no cobra ni un centavo para nosotros significa quitarnos todo ese estrés, esa preocupación y podernos enfocar en nuestra hija.
That was the first thing I was like, how are we gonna do this? When they told us that we didn't have to pay a single bill, I was like, wow. They pretty much have saved us.
They take care of our housing. They take care of our food. In addition to the best medical treatment that my daughter could ever have. So it allows me to focus on my daughter and getting her better.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with Todd Willard. He's the district ranger on the Verde Ranger District of the Prescott National Forest. We were talking about some of the trail planning going on, 118 miles of trails, right, proposed and for construction in the near future just throughout the Verde Valley. And then we're talking about some of the work taking place, cleanup work over at West Mingus Avenue in just past the Cottonwood Airport, right? Yes. And some of the studies that were done and some of the impacts from, we were before break talking about recreational shooting and some of the impacts that had on there. Kind of just pick up from right there. You talked about some of the issues, but what work is taking place now as a result?
Well, we currently have a contractor out there with heavy equipment moving material that was on the surface that we're concerned about to a holding cell that's being constructed on site. It's the most economical way to deal with this, as transporting it off site. So essentially they'll create a holding cell, subsurface, push a lot of the affected material into that cell, and then take material that we're looking for a parking area and cover that over. So essentially it's off the surface and it doesn't pose a threat any longer.
Okay, so we're talking about mostly the issue is with the soil, right?
Yeah,
right,
and it was primarily the lead and antimony on the surface. So the objective is to push that off the surface, put it subsurface, cover it, so then it's not exposed to transport by any means.
So one of the issues was people not cleaning up once they were done shooting and just leaving everything there?
Well, perhaps that could be part of it, but the bigger issue is just lead left on the surface from shooting.
Gotcha.
So it's a long-term effect from shooting. And folks know that's been ongoing out there for years. Yeah. And so this is a buildup of material, and the issue is this having that use in one area for such a long period of time.
Right, yeah, so much going on in that one area, as you mentioned. And I imagine there's a lot of places across the county that could have the same potential issue down the road with so much activity in that one area, as you mentioned. So is the area closed right now, doing your recreation?
Actually, the area where the construction is ongoing is closed to all entry. There's a temporary closure order to shooting as well on the 45 acres immediately on site, and then there's an additional 1,780 acres that is affected for a non-shooting area for the next 2 years. And the reason being, we have contractors out there working currently, and it's safety for those folks. And then once they're done, we're not interested in having that activity continue there for a couple reasons. One is that's what we're cleaning up. And so if we continue to have that, really negates what we're attempting to do. And then the other thing is we're going to reseed and contour that piece of ground so that it does come back, because we're taking that topsoil off. We're going to try and make that, bring that back as best we can with seeding, hydromulching, and that. And so keeping vehicles off that is critical, and then the shooting as well. So it's a temporary closure for 2 years, and during that time we'll continue the NEPA process with the communities to ensure there's still interest in the trail system, which brought all this up. There's 22 miles of proposed trail just to the west of that shooting area.
Okay.
And that trail system will be tied into Yavapai College, which would provide a trailhead and a bathroom there. And they have trails on their property that will actually tie into the forest with this trail system, assuming the community still wants to go that route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so right now in that area, there's a lot of cleanup work going on, right, from some of the impacts of the recreation. But at the same time, in a couple of years now, you're cleaning up, right, getting rid of all that, rehabilitating the area. But there's going to be some improvements that people will see there once it's opened back up, right? It sounds like.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And so we have. In the previous planning, we came up with the trail system where Yavapai College was willing to, a trailhead that Yavapai College is willing to host on their property. And then on the forest side of it, we have a parking area that's primarily going to be would be access for equestrian use, because that wouldn't work out of the college, logistics and that associated there. And then also an OHV staging area for the road system tied to that Forest Road 493.
Okay.
Right there. So there will be boulders placed adjacent to Forest Road 493 and to keep vehicles on the roads. And anyway, the area, that road system is not closed by any stretch. People can still travel through there. They can go beyond the cleanup site, recreate however they see fit, but we did want to provide a safe environment for the contractors and for that area to rehabilitate over the next couple of years.
Okay, and now for people who are used to going to that area to shoot, can you recommend any other areas that they can go within the area?
That question's been brought up at our public meeting we had in November regarding this, which was an optional meeting, but we elected to do it. We wanted to inform folks what we were attempting to do. But what we try to do is disperse the recreational shooting as much as possible. So instead of say, hey, go to this location or this location, we're trying to avoid that. So if people want to know where they can go shoot, they can certainly call our office and we can provide them ideas on where they can shoot. But most forest users in this area, I believe, do know the forest well enough. They can safely find places that accommodate shooting, and that's what we're trying to do. We've got another 320,000 acres available for shooting. And so folks can find a safe backstop and spread that out and pick up after themselves. That's what we're trying to achieve here. Because we do support rec shooting.
Right.
And it's a viable recreational activity. But if we can spread that use out, that's where we need to be.
Right, okay. And now, just for reference or for just maybe to remind people, on the forest, what are some of the basic rules when you're shooting?
Well,
how far away from a road? How far from this building?
Well, first of all, you don't want to shoot across roads.
Right.
It's pretty amazing what we do see, and folks need to understand, have a safe backstop. Because that's what's actually happened at West Mingus. That people would be shooting at the base of that ridge, and then a four-wheel drive would come over the top of the hill. And so, cross-country travel and understanding where that's happening, legal or not, knowing that people may be behind where you're shooting. It's critical to understand that. So shooting across waterways is often not a good thing, like the Verde River, for instance. We've had issues with that recently, and understanding there are other recreationists out there, and just the example I shared with you before we started, the lady getting peppered with a shotgun down at Black Canyon Access near the Verde River. She was walking down the roadway, and people just need to understand there are other folks out there and be safe, understand your backstop. And it's a popular activity, and you can do it safely. You just need to think about what you're doing and
just being responsible about it. Yeah, I mean, that's scary when you have a lady walking her dog on a road and getting peppered with bullets. So we're going to take our second break. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the issues with illegal recreational use on the Verde District. Here in studio was the District Ranger, Todd Willard. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
The Q102 102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber.
You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q 102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
Hello, I'm Jen Cohen, host of Verde Valley TV's hit TV show, The Verde Valley Experience. On each episode, we feature local organizations, nonprofits, persons of interest, events, activities, and great local musicians. It's informative, it's entertaining, it's fun. It's the Verde Valley Experience.
Time is the one thing that we want more of as a St. Jude parent. Without the donors, I wouldn't have my Audrey.
El que St. Jude no cobra ni un centavo para nosotros significa quitarnos todo ese estrés, esa preocupación y podernos enfocar en nuestra hija.
That was the first thing I was like, how are we gonna do this? When they told us that we didn't have to pay a single bill, I was like, wow. They pretty much have saved us.
They take care of our housing. They take care of our food. In addition to the best medical treatment that my daughter could ever have. So it allows me to focus on my daughter and getting her better.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, sitting down with the District Ranger on the Verde Ranger District of the Prescott National Forest, Todd Willard, talking about a lot of stuff going on the Verde Ranger District. And before we went to break, we were talking about some of the issues with recreational shooting and some of the cleanup efforts over there just past the Cottonwood Airport. Talking about that cleanup effort, who are some other organizations or groups that you are working with on this?
Well, we coordinated closely with the Verde Front, which is the community-based planning group that includes the entire Verde Valley. But we've also coordinated closely with the Arizona State Rifle and Pistol Association, the NRA, and other shooting groups through our Washington office, sports coordinator. It's a Federal Lands, Hunting, Fishing, and Shooting Sports Roundtable. So in the Washington office, they have connections with those folks. And so we've really done our homework and due diligence to coordinate. And often closing shooting areas, even in the short term, is not popular. And we understand it's a very enthusiastic community for that. If I'm a shooter myself, I enjoy it myself. But anyway, we've really tried to soften this as much as we can and provide other opportunities for folks. And I say other parts of the district are available. It's 320,000 acres. Folks can, find a good, safe place to shoot and continue to do that.
Great. And real quick, before you have to wrap things up here, you wanted to quickly touch on illegal residential use on the Verde District. Okay, so we've had an ongoing issues on the Verde Ranger District with what I term as residential use. And so legal camping is fine, and we encourage that. And people can legally stay for 14 days on a given national forest. Once they hit their 14-day stay limit, then they can leave for 14 days. And the Coconino Forest is right across the river, so oftentimes people will go from the Prescott to the Coconino, 14 days on the Coke, 14 days back on the Prescott. And so we really run into issues with folks taking advantage of that. And, some folks are down on their luck and really don't have a lot of other places to go. Yeah. So that is residential use, which is illegal. Yeah. And it's National Forest System lands, and we want to make that available to everyone. But there are environmental concerns and that associated with residential use that are pretty dramatic. I mean, we've got
You know, it's just broken needles, glass, fecal
Yeah, I mean, it's
contamination, trash, soil compaction, vegetation's been impacted.
Yeah, and there's no services out there for any of that.
No, there aren't. And so they're essentially become camps, and we just don't have the staffing to deal with that, to clean that stuff up, although we've worked with the communities and internally to do that, but it's been an ongoing issue. So I'm engaging with the communities, Cottonwood, Clarkdale, even Camp Verde, to come up with solutions. And as a matter of fact, today I'm going to be meeting with the Catholic Community Services, support services for veteran families. And so we're trying to be sensitive to people's situation, but address it on the landscape as well.
And public education as always. So again, that's going to do it. Thank you for coming in today, talking about the Verde Ranger District of the Prescott National Forest. 928-567-4121 for more information. That's going to do it for today's Countywide. We'll see you next time.